A banquet is being held in the royal palace. It is a scene of absolute decadence. Silks from the east drape the walls, gold goblets overflow with heavy wine, and the air is thick with the smell of roasted meats and expensive perfumes. At the head of the table sits King Astyages. He is the most powerful man in the known world. He rules the Medes, the masters of the Middle East. He is a man who snaps his fingers and armies march. But tonight, he isn't interested in war. He is interested in a joke, a very, very dark joke. Sitting to his right is his loyal general and cousin, Harpagus. Harpagus has been away on business for the king, and tonight is his welcome home dinner. The king has been incredibly generous. He has served Harpagus a special dish, a mountain of tender, roasted meat, seasoned to perfection. The king watches Harpagus eat. He smiles. He waits until the general has wiped his plate clean, until his belly is full and his guard is down. Then Astyages claps his hands. Servants enter the room. They are carrying a covered basket. They place it in front of Harpagus. Open it. The king says, "For dessert." Harpagus, confused but obedient, lifts the lid. Inside the basket, staring up at him with dead, glassy eyes, is the head of his own 13-year-old son. Next to the head are the boy's hands and feet. The room goes silent. The music stops. The other guests freeze, goblets halfway to their mouths. King Astyages leans forward, his eyes gleaming with cruelty. "Did you enjoy your meal, Harpagus?" he asks. "Did you like the taste of the meat?" Harpagus looks at the head of his child. Then he looks at the plate he just licked clean. The realization hits him like a physical blow. He has just cannibalized his own son. Most men would scream. Most men would grab a knife and try to kill the king right there, or collapse in a heap of madness. But Harpagus is a survivor. He knows that if he shows even an ounce of anger, the king will kill him too. So he slowly closes the basket. He bows his head. And he says, with a voice that must have sounded like grinding glass, what the king does is pleasing. He takes the basket and walks out of the hall to bury what is left of his child. King Astyages laughs. He thinks he has won. He thinks he has taught his subordinate a lesson about loyalty. He thinks that fear is the ultimate weapon, but he is wrong. In that moment, he didn't just break a father's heart, he signed his own death warrant. He created a weapon of vengeance that would eventually tear his entire empire apart. Because Harpagus wasn't going to forget. He was going to wait. He was going to wait for the right weapon to use against the Mad King, and as it turned out, that weapon was already growing up in the wild mountains of Persia. That weapon's name was Cyrus. This is the story of how a boy condemned to death became the architect of the world. This is the story of the man who invented the very concept of human rights 2,000 years before the United Nations. This is the story of Cyrus the Great. But to understand how Cyrus ended up on the throne, we have to understand why Astyages fed a child to his father in the first place. It all started, as these things often do in the ancient world, with a dream. King Astyages had a daughter named Mandane. One night, the king had a nightmare. He dreamed that his daughter urinated. That sounds funny, but in the dream, she didn't just pee a little. She produced a flood so massive that it filled the city of Ecbatana, then flooded the whole of Asia, drowning the entire continent. Astyages woke up in a cold sweat. He called his magi, the priests, and dream interpreters. They told him, "This means your daughter will give birth to a son who will overthrow you and conquer Asia." Astyages was paranoid. He decided he couldn't let his daughter marry a powerful Median noble because their son would be a threat. So he married her off to a lesser person. He picked a man named Cambyses. Cambyses was a Persian. Now, in the 6th century BC, the Persians were basically the hillbillies of the ancient world. They lived in the rugged mountains of the south modern-day Fars province in Iran. They were vassals to the Medes. They wore leather trousers, lived in tents, and were considered tough but culturally backward. Astyages thought, perfect, If she marries a Persian redneck, her kid will be a nobody. So, Mandane went south, got married, and got pregnant. But then, Astyages had another dream. This time, he saw a vine growing out of his daughter's womb. The vine grew and grew until it overshadowed the entire world. The Magi were even more emphatic this time. "King, the child is coming. He will take your crown. You have to kill it." So, when Mandane gave birth to a baby boy, little Cyrus, Astyages ordered her to return home. He snatched the baby from her arms. He called his most trusted general, Harpagus. This was years before the cannibal feast. "Take this thing," Astyages said, pointing to the crying infant. "Take it into the wilderness and leave it to die. Don't come back until it's dead." Harpagus took the baby, but Harpagus had a problem. He looked at the kid. It was a royal baby. It was cute, it was helpless, and Harpagus was a politician. He thought, if I kill this kid and the king dies, the king's daughter Mandane might eventually take power. If she knows I murdered her son, I'm toast. So Harpagus passed the buck. He found a royal shepherd named Mithridates. "Here," Harpagus said, "take this baby to the wildest, most dangerous part of the mountains. Leave it there for the wolves. I'll send guards to check in 3 days. If the baby isn't dead, I'll skin you alive." The shepherd took the baby home to his wife. Now, call it fate, call it divine intervention, or call it just incredibly convenient storytelling by the historian Herodotus, but on that very day, the shepherd's wife had gone into labor and given birth to a stillborn child. She was weeping over her dead baby when her husband walked in with a royal infant wrapped in gold-embroidered cloth. They made a swap. They took the dead baby, dressed it in the royal clothes, and left it in the woods. They took the royal baby Cyrus and raised him as their own. When Harpagus's guards came to check, they saw a dead baby rotting in the woods. They reported back to Astyages. The threat is gone. The vine is cut. Astyages slept soundly for 10 years, but DNA has a way of showing itself. 10 years later, the village boys were playing a game called King. They elected the shepherd's son Cyrus to be the king. Even at 10, Cyrus took the role seriously. He started issuing orders. "You, build a house. You, be my bodyguard. You, bring me messages." One of the boys was the son of a high-ranking Median noble. He refused to obey a dirty shepherd boy. "I'm not taking orders from you, peasant," he said. Cyrus didn't back down. He ordered his bodyguards to seize the noble kid. Then, Cyrus took a whip and beat the living daylights out of him. The noble kid ran home crying to his father. The father went to King Astyages to complain. "This insolent shepherd boy beat my son. You must punish him." Astyages, bored and wanting to uphold justice, summoned the shepherd and his son. When 10-year-old Cyrus walked into the throne room, he didn't cower. He stood tall. He looked the king in the eye. Astyages asked, "How dare you, the son of a slave, treat a noble like that?" Cyrus replied, "I did only what was right. The boys chose me as their king. He refused to obey my orders. If a subject disobeys the king, he must be punished. If I did wrong, I am here to take my punishment." Astyages froze. He looked at the boy's face. He looked at the shape of his nose, the set of his jaw. It was like looking in a mirror. He did the math. The age was right. The attitude was right. This wasn't a shepherd. He sent Cyrus into the other room and grilled the shepherd under threat of torture. The shepherd cracked. He confessed everything. Astyages realized the truth. The grandson he tried to kill was alive. He consulted the Magi again. "What do I do?" The dream said he would be king. The Magi, realizing they had screwed up, came up with a loophole. "Technically, Your Majesty, the prophecy has been fulfilled. The boys chose him as king in their game. He has already been a king. The dream is over. You're safe." Astyages liked this logic. He decided to spare Cyrus. He sent the boy back to his real parents in Persia. But someone had to be punished for disobeying the original order to kill the baby. That someone was Harpagus. And that brings us back to the dinner. The meat, the head in the basket, the gruesome punishment for a general who showed mercy. After the dinner, Harpagus smiled, bowed, and went back to work, but inside, he was burning. He began to send gifts to the leading nobles of Media. He whispered in their ears, "Astyages is crazy. He's cruel. We need a change." Meanwhile, Cyrus was growing up in Persia. He learned to ride a horse. He learned to shoot a bow. He learned to tell the truth, the three pillars of Persian education. He became a leader of men, charismatic, strong, and ambitious. When Cyrus turned 21, he received a strange gift from Media. It was a Hera rabbit with its belly slit open and sewn back up. Inside the rabbit was a letter. It was from Harpagus. The letter read, "Son of Cambyses, the gods watch over you. Astyages tried to kill you, but you lived. I saved you, and for that, he fed me my own son. Now is the time for vengeance. Revolt. Raise the Persian banners. March on Media. I command the king's army. When we meet on the battlefield, I will defect to you. We will crush the monster together." Cyrus didn't hesitate. He gathered the Persian tribes. He stood before them and gave a speech that is a master class in motivation. He ordered them all to come with scythes. On the first day, he made them clear a massive field of thorny bushes. It was brutal, back-breaking labor in the hot sun. They hated it. On the second day, he threw a massive party. He slaughtered sheep, goats, and oxen. He gave them wine. He let them feast on the very field they had cleared. At the end of the meal, Cyrus asked, "Which day did you prefer? Yesterday or today?" "Today," they shouted. Yesterday was hell. Today is paradise. Cyrus nodded. "If you follow me, every day will be like today. You will have wealth, freedom, and glory. If you remain slaves to Astyages, every day will be like yesterday, thorns and sweat. Choose." The Persians roared. They chose the party. They chose war. The rebellion began in 553 BC. Astyages heard the news. That ungrateful whelp. He screamed. He mobilized the entire Median army, and, in a stroke of genius stupidity that only a narcissist could pull off, he put Harpagus in command. He actually forgot he had fed the man his own son. Or he was so arrogant he thought Harpagus had gotten over it. The armies met on the border. The Medes charged. And then, just as promised, Harpagus threw down his shield. He turned his troops around. The Median army dissolved into chaos. Half of them joined Cyrus. The other half ran away. Astyages was stunned. "The magic has failed," he cried. He impaled his own mage eye priests for giving him bad advice. He armed the youths and the old men of the capital for a last stand. But it was over. Cyrus marched into Ecbatana without breaking a sweat. He stormed the palace. He found his grandfather, the man who ordered his death, the man who served children for dinner. Now, in any other story in history, this is the part where the hero cuts the villain's head off. Cyrus didn't do that. He took Astyages prisoner. He stripped him of his crown, but he let him live. He kept him at court as a grandfather, a pensioner. He treated him with respect. Why? Because Cyrus was playing a different game. He didn't just want to be a conqueror, he wanted to be a legitimate king. By sparing Astyages, he showed the Medes that he wasn't a barbarian outsider destroying their culture. He was the grandson of their king. He was inheriting the throne, not stealing it. He merged the two nations. He created the Medo-Persian Empire. He kept the Median officials. He kept the Median generals, especially Harpagus. Overnight, the hillbillies in the leather pants became the masters of the Middle East, but the world doesn't like a sudden power vacuum. When a big empire like Media falls, the sharks start circling. And the biggest shark in the water was a man named Croesus. Croesus was the king of Lydia, modern-day Turkey. He was fabulously wealthy. This is where the phrase rich as Croesus comes from. His kingdom was the birthplace of minted coins. He had gold flowing out of his rivers. Croesus looked east and saw chaos. He saw the Medes fall and a young, inexperienced Persian kid take the throne. He thought, this is my chance. I can take over their territory. I can expand my empire. But Croesus was a cautious man. He didn't want to attack without divine permission, so he decided to test the oracles. He sent messengers to all the famous psychic hotlines of the ancient world: Delphi, Dodona, Amphiaraus. He told his messengers, on the 100th day after you leave, ask the oracle what I am doing at this exact moment. On the 100th day, Croesus did something totally random. He chopped up a tortoise and a lamb and boiled them together in a bronze pot. The messengers came back with the answers. Most were gibberish, but the oracle at Delphi got it right. The priestess said, I smell the scent of a hard-shelled tortoise boiling in bronze with the flesh of lambs. Croesus was amazed. Delphi is the real deal, he declared. He sent massive gifts of gold to the temple. Then he asked the big question, should I attack Cyrus? The oracle replied with one of the most famous, ambiguous lines in history. If you cross the Halys River, you will destroy a great empire. Croesus was thrilled. I'm going to destroy Cyrus. The gods are with me. He forgot to ask which empire would be destroyed. He crossed the river. He invaded Persian territory. Cyrus didn't wait. He mobilized his new army. He marched 1,200 miles west in record time. He met Croesus at the Battle of Tyria. It was a stalemate. It was winter. Usually, in the ancient world, armies went home in the winter. Croesus, thinking the fighting was done for the season, withdrew to his capital, Sardis. He disbanded his mercenary army, planning to hire them back in the spring. He thought Cyrus would go home too. Cyrus did not go home. Cyrus did something crazy. He marched his army in the winter straight for Sardis. When he arrived, Croesus was caught with his pants down. He scrambled to assemble his cavalry, the feared Lydian lancers. These were the best horsemen in the world. Their spears were long, their horses were fast. Cyrus looked at the Lydian cavalry and realized he had a problem. His infantry would get mowed down. He turned to Harpagus. How do we stop those horses? Harpagus, the crafty old survivor, had an idea. Horses hate camels, he said. They hate the smell. They hate the sight of them. Put the baggage camels on the front line. So, at the Battle of Thymbra, Cyrus deployed the tactical assault camels. The Lydian cavalry charged, but as they got close, the horses smelled the camels. They panicked. They reared up. They bucked their riders off. The Lydian charge collapsed into a chaotic rodeo. Cyrus's infantry swarmed in. The Lydians were crushed. Cyrus besieged Sardis. Within 2 weeks, the impregnable city fell. Croesus, the richest man in the world, was dragged in chains before Cyrus. Cyrus ordered a massive funeral pyre to be built. He tied Croesus on top of it. He was going to burn him alive as an offering to the gods, or perhaps just to see if the gods would save him. The fire was lit. The flames started to lick at the wood. Croesus, realizing he had misinterpreted the oracle, he had destroyed his own empire, looked up at the sky and screamed a name. Solon, Solon, Solon. Cyrus was curious. He ordered the fire to be put out, which, legend says, required a sudden rainstorm sent by Apollo because the fire was too hot. He asked Croesus, "Who is Solon?" Croesus explained. Years ago, Solon, a wise Greek lawmaker, had visited him. Croesus had shown off all his gold and asked, "Am I the happiest man in the world?" Solon had said, "No, count no man happy until he is dead. You have money, but luck can change in an instant." Croesus looked at Cyrus. I thought he was a fool. But he was right. I was the master of the world, and now I am a prisoner about to be ash. Cyrus looked at the defeated king. He looked at the pile of wood. He looked at his own hands. He realized that could be me. Cyrus was young, he was victorious, but he realized that the wheel of fortune turns for everyone. Today, he was the conqueror. Tomorrow, he could be the guy on the bonfire. In that moment, Cyrus made a decision that would define his entire reign. He didn't kill Croesus. He untied him. He made him his advisor. He treated him with honor. Cyrus didn't just want to destroy empires. He wanted to collect them. He wanted the wisdom of Lydia, not just its gold. With the West subdued, Cyrus turned his eyes back to the East, to the prize of prizes, to the city that defied God and man alike, Babylon. But Babylon wasn't just a city. It was a fortress of biblical proportions. Its walls were so thick you could race for chariots abreast on top of them. It had provisions to last for 20 years. It was surrounded by the Euphrates River. To take it, Cyrus wouldn't need camels. He wouldn't need brute force. He would need a miracle. Or, barring that, he would need the greatest engineering trick in military history. 539 BC Babylon. If New York, London, and Tokyo had a baby, and that baby was raised by a megalomaniac billionaire with a gold fetish, it would be Babylon. It was the center of the world, the Hanging Gardens, the Tower of Babel, the Edamananke Ziggurat, the Ishtar Gate, covered in blue glazed bricks with dragons and bulls. The king of Babylon was a man named Nabonidus. And he was weird. He wasn't interested in ruling. He was an amateur archaeologist. He spent all his time digging up old temples in the desert and worshiping the moon god, Sin. This was a big problem because the patron god of Babylon was Marduk. The priests of Marduk hated Nabonidus. The people hated him because he ignored their festivals. For 10 years, the New Year's festival, the most important holiday in the calendar, was canceled because the king couldn't be bothered to show up. So, when Cyrus marched his army toward Babylon, he didn't come as an invader. He came as a politician running a smear campaign. He flooded the city with propaganda. He spread rumors that Nabonidus was mad, that Marduk had abandoned the king, that Cyrus was the chosen one sent by Marduk to restore order. It was brilliant. He was turning the people against their own leader before the first arrow was fired. But propaganda doesn't knock down walls, and Babylon's walls were terrifying. The Euphrates River flowed right through the middle of the city. The walls extended over the river with massive iron grates that went down to the riverbed. You couldn't swim under them. You couldn't climb over them. Cyrus arrived and looked at the fortifications. He knew a siege would take forever. His army would starve before the Babylonians did. So he looked at the river. He took his engineers upstream, away from the city sightlines. He found a massive depression, an ancient lake bed or canal system that was dry. He ordered his men to dig. They dug a canal from the river to the dry lake. But they didn't breach the final dam. They waited. October 12th, 539 BC, it was a festival night in Babylon. Despite the looming Persian army, the Babylonians were parting. They felt safe behind their walls. The wine was flowing. The guards were drunk. In the palace, according to the Bible book of Daniel, King Belshazzar, Nabonidus' son and regent, was throwing a feast. He brought out the golden cup stolen from the temple in Jerusalem. He mocked the God of Israel. Suddenly, a disembodied hand appeared in the air. It wrote 4 words on the plaster of the wall. Mene, mene, tekel, upharsin. Daniel the prophet interpreted it. God has numbered the days of your kingdom. You have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. Your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. While the king was trembling at the ghost hand, Cyrus gave the signal. Upstream, his engineers broke the dam. The mighty Euphrates River poured into the diversion canal. The water level in the main riverbed began to drop. It dropped to the waist. then to the knees, then to the shin. Cyrus's special forces, the Immortals, were waiting in the mud. They waited silently along the riverbed, right under the massive walls, the iron grates that protected the river entrance. Someone had left them unlocked. Maybe it was a drunk guard. Maybe it was a priest of Marduk who wanted Cyrus to win. Maybe it was just luck. The Persians slipped into the city like ghosts. They didn't burn it. They didn't scream. They moved silently through the streets while the city partied. By the time the sun rose, the Persian flag was flying over the palace. Belshazzar was dead. The city had fallen without a major battle. On October 29th, Cyrus himself entered the city. Usually, when a city falls, the conqueror rides in on a warhorse, stepping over dead bodies. Cyrus rode in on a chariot filled with flowers. The streets were lined with green boughs. The people didn't throw rocks, they threw garlands. The priests of Marduk welcomed him as a savior. He went straight to the great temple. He didn't loot it. He didn't melt down the statue of Marduk like Xerxes would later do. He took the hand of the god. He performed the rituals. He proclaimed himself king of Babylon, king of Sumer and Akkad, king of the four corners of the world. But he did something else. Something that changed human history. He found a clay cylinder about the size of a football, and he ordered his scribes to write a declaration on it in cuneiform. This is the Cyrus cylinder. It is often called the first charter of human rights. On it, Cyrus declared, "I am Cyrus ... when I entered Babylon as a friend. I did not allow anyone to terrorize the land. I abolished the corvée forced labor. I freed the slaves," and then the kicker. He looked at the populations that the Babylonians had enslaved and deported, the Jews, the Syrians, the peoples whose gods had been stolen and whose temples had been destroyed. The standard policy of the ancient world was assimilation by force. You destroy the local culture so they become loyal to you. Cyrus said, "No, that's stupid. People fight harder when you try to erase them." He issued a decree. "Go home. I return to these sacred cities on the other side of the Tigris, the sanctuaries of which have been ruins for a long time, the images which used to live therein, and established for them permanent sanctuaries. I also gathered all their former inhabitants and returned to them their habitations." Imagine being a Jewish exile in Babylon. You've been weeping by the rivers of Babylon for 50 years. Your temple is a pile of ash. Your god seems defeated. And then this Persian king shows up, a pagan, a man who doesn't know your god, and he says, "Here is your gold back. Here is money from my treasury. Go back to Jerusalem. Rebuild your temple. Pray for me." It was mind-blowing. In the Bible book of Isaiah, Cyrus is the only non-Jew ever referred to as Messiah, Mashiach, the Anointed One. The Bible calls him God's shepherd. He didn't just tolerate diversity. He funded it. He created a new model of empire. The Achaemenid model. It wasn't based on fear like the Assyrians. It wasn't based on religious uniformity. It was based on a simple transaction. You pay your taxes, you send soldiers when I call, and you don't rebel. In exchange, you can worship whoever you want, live however you want, and I will keep the roads safe and the trade flowing. It worked. The Persian Empire became the most stable, wealthy, and peaceful state the world had ever seen. It was the first true superpower. But Cyrus wasn't done. He was in his 60s now. He owned everything from Turkey to India. He could have retired to his palace in Pasargadae and enjoyed his harem. But conquerors have a sickness. They can't stop. There is always one more border, one more tribe, one more threat. He looked north to the steppes of Central Asia, modern-day Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. There lived a tribe called the Massagetes. They were nomads, horse archers, ferocious, wild, and led by a warrior queen named Tamiris. Cyrus wanted to secure his northern border. He sent an ambassador to Tamiris, proposing marriage. "Unite our kingdoms," he said. Tamiris wasn't an idiot. She replied, "You don't want a wife, you want my land. Go away. Rule your own people and let me rule mine." Cyrus marched his army to the Araxes River. He started building a bridge. Thamyris sent him a message: "Stop this hard work. If you want to fight, I'll pull my army back 3 days' march from the river. You cross over and we'll fight fair and square. Or you pull back and we'll cross to you." Cyrus called a war council. His generals said, "Let them cross to us. It's safer." But Croesus, the old Lydian king, who was now Cyrus's wise advisor, spoke up. "My king," Croesus said, "if you let them cross and they beat you, they will chase you into your empire. If you cross and beat them, you can chase them. Besides, it is shameful for Cyrus, the son of Cambyses, to retreat before a woman." Cyrus's pride got the better of him. "We cross," he said, but Croesus had another idea, a trick. "These nomads," Croesus said, "they don't know luxury. They don't know wine. Cross the river, set up a camp full of food and strong wine. Leave your weakest soldiers there, then retreat. The nomads will attack, find the wine, get drunk, and then you can smash them." Cyrus loved a good trick. He did exactly that. He crossed the river. He left a banquet. He pulled his main army back. A third of the Massagetæ army, led by Thamyris' son, Spargapises, attacked the camp. They slaughtered the weak Persian guards. They saw the food. They saw the wine. They had never tasted wine before. They drank it like water. Within an hour, the entire army was passed out drunk. Cyrus returned. It was a massacre. The Persians slaughtered the sleeping nomads. Spargapises, the queen's son, was captured. When the boy woke up and realized he had been captured because of a hangover, he begged Cyrus to untie his hands. Cyrus, being chivalrous, agreed. As soon as his hands were free, Spargapises grabbed a knife and killed himself. He couldn't live with the shame. When Queen Thamyris heard the news, she didn't cry. She didn't beg. She sent Cyrus one final message. "Bloodthirsty Cyrus," she wrote, "you have no pride in this. You didn't beat my son with iron. You beat him with poison. You killed him with the fruit of the vine that makes you mad. Now, listen to me. Give me back my son's body and leave this land. If you don't, I swear by the sun, the master of the Massagetæ, that I will give you your fill of blood." Cyrus ignored her. He pushed forward. The two armies met in 530 BC. Herodotus says it was the most violent battle ever fought between barbarians. The Persians had the numbers. The Massagetæ had the rage. They shot arrows until their quivers were empty. Then they crashed together with spears and axes. No one gave ground, and then the unthinkable happened. The Persian line broke. The king's guard was overrun. Cyrus the Great, the king of kings, the king of the four corners of the world, the Messiah, the shepherd, fell. He died in the dust of a foreign land, killed by a barbarian tribe he had underestimated. After the battle, Queen Thamyris walked through the field of corpses. She was looking for him. She found his body. She ordered her servants to fill a wineskin a leather bag with human blood. She grabbed Cyrus's hair and lifted his head. She shoved his face into the bag of blood. "I warned you," she hissed at the dead king. "I told you I would give you your fill of blood. Now drink." It was a gruesome, ignoble end for the greatest man of the age. His body was eventually recovered somehow and brought back to Pasargadae. But the story doesn't end in that bag of blood, because Cyrus left something behind, something more durable than his empire. Pasargadae, modern-day Iran, 330 BC. 200 years have passed since Cyrus died. The world has changed. The Persian Empire, the colossus that Cyrus built, is burning. A new conqueror has arrived. A young Macedonian boy king with golden hair and an ambition that makes Cyrus look modest. Alexander the Great. Alexander has just burned Persepolis. He is hunting down the last Persian king, Darius III. He is tearing down the Achaemenid world brick by brick. But there is one place Alexander forbids his soldiers from looting, one place he treats as holy ground. He rides to Pasargadae. He finds a simple limestone tomb. It's modest. A small, gabled house sitting on a 6-tiered step pyramid. It looks almost like a little cottage perched on a pedestal. No gold statues, no massive reliefs of conquering armies. Just white stone. Alexander dismounts. He walks up the steps. He enters the tomb. Inside, he finds a golden bed, a table set with drinking cups, a coffin, and some robes. But he's looking for something else. He's looking for the inscription he had read about in Greek history books. He finds it carved on the tomb. It reads, "O man, whoever you are and wherever you come from, for I know you will come, I am Cyrus who won the Persians their empire. Do not therefore begrudge me this bit of earth that covers my bones." Alexander reads it. And according to the historian Arian, the great conqueror starts to cry. He realizes that all this, the armies, the glory, the burning cities, it all ends in a small stone box. He realizes that even the king of the world eventually just needs a few feet of dirt. Alexander orders the tomb to be restored. He punishes the guards who had allowed thieves to break in earlier. He places his own cloak over the coffin. It is a rare moment of connection across centuries. The Greek conqueror bowing to the Persian builder. But why did Alexander cry? Why does Cyrus matter? Most ancient conquerors are remembered for what they broke. Ashurbanipal is remembered for flaying people alive. Genghis Khan is remembered for mountains of skulls. Cyrus is remembered for what he didn't break. He was the first man in history to realize a fundamental truth about human nature. We are different, and that's okay. Before Cyrus, the goal of empire was uniformity. Everyone must worship Ashur. Everyone must speak Aramaic. Everyone must bow the same way. Cyrus looked at the chaotic mess of humanity, the Jews, the Babylonians, the Lydians, the Greeks, the Medes, and said, "Keep your gods, keep your languages. Just work with me." He invented the federal state. He invented the idea that a central government could exist to protect local diversity rather than destroy it. The United States Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the very idea of religious freedom. You can trace a direct line from those documents all the way back to that clay cylinder in Babylon. Thomas Jefferson owned copies of Xenophon's Cyropedia, The Education of Cyrus. He studied Cyrus. He learned from him. When the founding fathers were designing a country made up of different states and different religions, they looked to the Persian model. But there is a tragedy in Cyrus's legacy, too. He built an empire so successful, so wealthy, and so stable that it eventually became soft. His successors Cambyses, Darius, Xerxes, they forgot the lesson of the hard day and the soft day. They forgot the thorns. They only wanted the banquet. They stopped being shepherds of the people and started being masters of slaves. And ironically, the very tolerance Cyrus championed became the empire's weakness. Because he allowed the Greeks to keep their culture in Ionia, they eventually revolted, sparking the wars that would destroy the empire. Because he allowed the Jews to return to Jerusalem, the region remained a geopolitical flashpoint for millennia. Cyrus teaches us that tolerance is hard. It's messy. It requires constant maintenance. But look at the alternatives. Look at the Assyrians. Their empire lasted barely a century before everyone hated them so much they burned Nineveh to the ground and erased it from history. Cyrus's empire lasted centuries, and even when it fell, the people didn't hate Cyrus. The Greeks, the enemies of Persia, wrote books praising him as the ideal ruler. The Jews wrote him into their Bible as a hero. The Iranians today still call him father. He achieved the impossible. He conquered the world and remained beloved. Today, the tomb of Cyrus still stands on the plains of Pasargadae. The gold bed is gone. The robes have rotted away. The body is long gone, likely stolen or dusted into nothingness. But the inscription, whether it's literally carved there or just carved into history, still speaks. Do not begrudge me this bit of earth. It's a plea for humility. It's a reminder that no matter how much gold you have, no matter how many armies you command, in the end, we are all just dust. The only thing that lasts is how you treated the people under your power. Did you feed them to their fathers, or did you send them home? Cyrus the Great chose to send them home, and for that, 2,500 years later, we still know his name.